Welcome to the second in a series of Q&A, virtual Q&As hosted by, actually it's going to be hosted by me, but put on by Representative John Bell Edwards, who is the representative for District 72. And I'll explain a little bit. My name is Wayne Glasscott with Channel 17 here in Hammond. And if you're watching this, you're already on the site. It's a virtual Q&A. The questions, we've obtained some questions before we went on the air tonight. And we'll ask those questions of our esteemed panel, to whom I'll introduce in just a minute. And they'll be able to answer those questions. Those questions will not be specific to any guest. They'll just be thrown out to the floor for anyone to answer. And the comments will not be limited to time, and any rebuttal will not be limited. But the questions are all about Veterans Affairs, and this is the second in the series. The first of the series was answering questions and issues reported to the citizens of Louisiana as it related to educational issues. This, of course, on Veterans Day, appropriately will answer questions as to issues for veterans in Louisiana. And an interesting fact I just found out, that 10% of the population of this state are veterans. Our men and women serve at a greater pro-rated, there's more per capita, word I'm looking for, per capita than any other state in the Union, which is an interesting fact, and which increases our need here for Veterans Affairs. And John Bell, you can talk later about what you've done to expand those. But let me introduce our panel. If you're watching the site, if you have a question, at the bottom of the video, you can see there's a place to type in your question. Type in those questions. They'll come to our panel here. You can do that and you can do it by Facebook or by Twitter or on John Bell's site. If you're watching this, you can see the space below in which to ask a question. That will come to the panel. They'll feed those questions to us over the iPads, and we will read them to our panel here and hopefully answer any questions you might have. But in the meantime, may I introduce our panel. This is Mr. Richard O'Brien. Mr. O'Brien is a native of New Orleans and is now a resident of Denham Springs in Livingston Parish. He served 2 terms in Vietnam on a river patrol boat, which is a 26-foot boat. You've probably seen some of the movies out there where they're actually jet propulsion instead of with outboards or inboard propulsion, and go shallow water 6 or 8 inches that they can run in. And there was a crew of 5. I'm sure they were fitted with machine guns and other armament, but patrolled up the Mekong River and other rivers in Southeast Asia during the conflict in Southeast Asia, in Cambodia and Vietnam as well. He was injured by a rocket on that river patrol boat, yeah, and on a mission that you were doing there.
Yes.
And he is now an advocate for injured veterans and represents veterans injured in combat. Our other guest is Mr. Louis Joseph, someone I'm very familiar with. Mr. Joseph is a retired from the Army and is currently in the National Guard.
Retired from the National Guard.
You retired from the National Guard, but you run the youth services.
National Guard Youth Center program, yeah.
Right, for the National Guard. And a very nice program. It's located down in St. Gabriel. Mr. Joseph has been active in politics and certainly with the Veterans Affairs in Tangipahoa Parish for more than 40 years. He was superintendent of education, a very excellent superintendent of education for our parish. He also was a former councilman in the city of Independence, and he is now an esteemed member of our parish council, someone that we work with very often. As you know, on Channel 17, we do those meetings live. And our patron here, our Honorable Mr. John Bell Edwards, who's represented from District 72. John Bell, as most of you know, is a graduate of West Point. He also commanded an Army Ranger paratroop unit.
It was a rifle company in the 82nd Airborne Division, yes, sir.
Very good, and achieved the rank of captain, and he is the reason we're all here. He's also a candidate for governor. So we can start with questions, guys, and if you have any comments, you can stop me anytime. This is very...
Wayne, we'll do that. I want to thank you for doing this for us, and also want to thank Louis Joseph and Richard O'Brien, not just for being here tonight, but for their service to our country, and all the veterans out there who are watching. And if they're not watching, we want to thank them for their service to our country, as well as their family members. I can tell you, spouses and children of veterans, they also sacrificed a great deal. And so this day is all about them, and so we thank them for their service, and thank you for being here tonight.
It is my honor. Honestly, my partner, Ken Benitez, normally does these things, and again, this is the second in a row, but thank you for asking me. It is my honor to serve. But if we can start with the first question, well, and again, any questions that you want to type in on the bottom of the video page there, those questions will go to the crew in the back, and they'll send those questions directly to us. But some of these we've got, as we've been tweeting and sending out Facebook messages that this program was coming, we've actually got a flood of questions, and they've narrowed them down to some that we will answer. Any live questions come in, we'll answer those as they come in. But the first question I'll throw out to the panel, the entire panel, is Sam from Shreveport. And his question is, what can the state do to ensure that reforms of the federal VA result in better services, claims processing, medical care, etc., for Louisiana veterans?
Well, I'll defer to Richard because he heads up one of the premier veteran service organizations in the state, and I have heard him testify in committee, and I know his passion, and I know his experience in this area. So
I think the first thing that we need to do is, from a state perspective, is make sure that our veterans understand what service officers are. When a man or a lady gets out of the military, many of them don't know where to go for their benefits or their health benefits. It's upon us as service organizations to make sure that our veterans know that our parishes have service officers in 64 parishes, and we should direct those people to the service officers so they can file for their medical benefits or their health benefit, whatever benefits they need. As service officers there for that. I find many times that the guys coming out, they don't really know what to do. So it's upon us to make sure they know where to go. And then if need be, to follow up on them. Because many times guys come out or ladies come out and they need to go to work. They need to take care of their families. And they just really don't know what to do. And that's what I do. I do it for combat wounded veterans because they're near and dear to my heart. But any veteran that needs help, we're there for them.
And it's important to know, Wayne, that these parish service officers are in every parish. They actually work for the State Department of Veterans Affairs. And it's important that we fund that office so that we can have good parish service officers, because they have to tell the veterans what benefits they're entitled to. And then if they make an application that is improperly rejected, then they can help that veteran to appeal the denial of those benefits. And so it's just critically important that we do that. And through those parish service officers reporting back up the chain of command to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, the state of Louisiana is in a position to partner with the federal VA and make sure they understand that the problems that our veterans are having as it relates to claims for disability, accessing health care and that sort of thing. So there's an awful lot that we can do. We just have to understand that there is a very important role for the state to play, and it's not just all on the federal VA.
Right. And you said there are 11 locations in the state of Louisiana. Yeah. We actually have one here in Hammond that is very well thought of.
Yeah, the Hammond Outpatient Clinic is a federal VA outpatient clinic. There are 11 or 12 of those scattered around the state right now. I believe we have 3 inpatient hospitals that are operating, but we're about to get 3 more, one in Lafayette, one in Lake Charles, and of course the big one in New Orleans in 2016. But we already have VA hospitals in Baton Rouge, Alexandria, and in Shreveport. And so, you know, it's a big issue today, and one of the things that I was surprised about is that overwhelming majority of the questions that got sent to us over the internet had to do with the federal VA and health care. And of course, as you know, there is a new Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Robert McDonald, who is a West Point graduate in 1975, previously was the CEO at Procter & Gamble. He announced just this week that somewhere between 40 and 1,000 people in the VA system are going to lose their jobs because of the inadequate health care and the delays and the misreporting and that sort of thing. And so let's hope that he's got a good plan to turn that around so that our veterans can get the care that they deserve, but also the care that we're obligated to give to them.
Right. And you touched on that. That is an obligation that we have to the veterans.
Well, absolutely. You know, we should take care of our veterans because we promised them we would when they signed up. And so we're obligated to do it. But what a lot of people don't think about is we now have an all-volunteer armed forces. And so if we don't take care of the people who have already volunteered and expose themselves to danger, and then that danger then causes them problems and they come home and we refuse as a country to adequately address those problems, how are we going to continue to get people to volunteer? And the world is becoming more dangerous, not less dangerous. So it's a matter of living up to our obligations to our veterans, such as these two gentlemen and the thousands of others, but also it's a matter of national security that we do so.
Well, let me piggyback on what Richard said, though. And he's exactly right. A lot of veterans just don't know what's available out there to help them. So I belong to the Vietnam Veterans Association of Independence. So we've taken it upon ourselves to find those veterans who don't know what's out there and to guide them to people like you, Richard. Also, you have the American Legion, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Vietnam veterans. Those organizations also, they reach out to homeless vets, those vets who are needing help, to make sure they're steered toward the VA health services. A lot of now the guys coming back from who came back from the Gulf War, they were in service on what's available. But guys like Vietnam, those fellas, we didn't really get that. It's up to us now, those organizations, to help those guys and steer them to in the right direction.
That is a great opportunity there. Okay, and is there anything else on that subject?
I think we're ready for the next one.
Okay. Luther from Independence asks, how about retaining the same doctors at these clinics and hospitals? I get a new doctor every 6 months, never see the old ones again. Where do they go?
Wow, that's a good question. And of course, I believe that the two gentlemen beside me actually get health care at least the outpatient VA clinic in Hammond, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
that's right.
And so they have personal experience, and so I'll defer to them.
This person's absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's many times you don't know what doctor you're going to get, and getting an appointment has been a real problem. And that's been the why the state held 2 hearings on the VA to try to resolve this situation. I'd like to tell you it's getting better, but in my opinion, we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
We still have a long way to go. Now, the clinic in Hammond does an excellent job once you get in. But getting appointments, I use what they call My Health. I do everything on the computer because that way I can document when I ask for an appointment, I can check my medications, I can converse with my doctor, that type of thing. But it'll take normally 6 to 8 weeks to get an appointment. And when you have multiple problems, it could be hearing, it could be diabetes, whatever the problem might be. Sometimes you need to get in to see a doctor a little bit faster than that. The phone system in Hammond works well, other parts of the state not so well. And so this person has a legitimate concern. And that's one of the things that the Secretary of the Veterans Affairs is trying to address. It's still out right now. I think we need to continue to demand proper health care for veterans. We shouldn't back off right now. We should be honest about what's taking place. You know, I find a lot of veterans, when I'll talk to them, I'll say, how you doing? And they'll say, well, I'm doing great. And the truth of the matter is they're not doing great.
Yeah.
It's just normal for people to say, I'm doing okay. But the truth of the matter is they're not doing okay. Mental health services, getting a person in to deal with post-traumatic stress is not always easy. They'll live in denial. It might be in the area of, they might start taking drugs, they might start doing alcohol. We've got to get these guys in there to deal with the mental health issues that they have, because if we don't, they're going to end up homeless, they're going to end up in the streets, it affects their families, everyone pays for this. So we've got to hire more doctors. They need to be the same doctors that are there, And so I'm waiting to see what the Secretary of Veterans Affairs is going to do.
And let me piggyback again off of Luther's question. And it's a very good one, because when veterans go in for service, they want to see the same doctor, because he knows the ailments, he knows how he's been treated. You don't want to start over with a new doctor every time you go. And I think the answer to that may be if the VA can recruit doctors at the local level. And if a doctor lives in Hammond, or if he lives in Independence, he works for the VA right here in Hammond, then there's a good chance that doctor will stay, Richard.
Right.
But now, I mean, I'm sure the doctors are from wherever, New Orleans, and perhaps when they get a job closer to home, then they'll move in that area. So perhaps we can, at the federal level, look at recruiting local doctors, local nurses to serve as our members, and perhaps Luther will see that same doctor. Because I agree with him. When I had a civilian doctor, I wanted to see my same doctor every time I went. I didn't want to see a new doctor every time, and I agree with him as well.
Yeah.
Because you wonder, so does this guy really know about my case, or he has to look at my chart and then study up on that? Well, you want the guy who you've been dealing with for 2 or 3 years, and I agree with him.
Well, there's some help too that can be had, some information that will be available on John Bell's website, and it's johnbellforgovernor.com.
Yeah, it's John Bell for Louisiana.
For Louisiana. Well,
That's right.
but you are a candidate for governor.
I am. Yes.
I will move on to the next question. Any
Well,
comments more, sir?
just one last thing. I just thought of something. I was just thinking about the number of guys that get out of the military that were medics or they were corpsmen.
Mm-hmm.
If there's such a need for medical assistance in the VA, maybe we should start looking to our veterans to fill these jobs.
Yeah.
Because we still have veterans that aren't employed. It seems to me that these people, if you go into the military and you become a corpsman, you have 2.5 years of training before you even go out. I would say that's equivalent to some of our nurses today. And so if you've had the training, why can't we bring these people into the VA and let them start serving other veterans? Who knows a veteran better than a veteran?
Correct.
Very good point.
Very good
And you
point.
say that you're able to do this on a laptop or a computer or smartphone. What about the veterans that doesn't own one of those? Do they have access? Is there a place that they could go for access to that?
That's where the service officers come in place. I mean, because service officers even help with jobs. So, you know, when a vet's looking for a job and things of that nature, part of our service officers are to direct them to companies that are looking for vets. And I'm talking specifically about the Veterans Administration. The Federal Veterans Administration should be looking to veterans that fill the billets of corpsmen and medics in the military. Reach out to them. If we have 10% of our population we're in the military, I guarantee you we've got a lot of medics in this state.
Right. I have a pretty good guess too, that I know that here in Tangipahoa Parish and in Livingston Parish have an excellent library system with
Right.
high tech, everybody with Wi-Fi.
Correct.
Probably any veteran that needed help filling out this, that didn't have access to a computer, could probably go to any public library. I'd be willing to bet you could do that in Livingston Parish and Tangipahoa Parish.
And that's true around the state.
Yeah.
And receive that help in filling out the stuff online, and that gives you a permanent record.
Well, I represent the parish council on the Tangipahoa Parish Library Board, and I'm here to tell you that any help any veteran needs, all he has to do, or she has to do, is go to any local library in this parish, in Livingston too, and you'll get all the help you need as far as filling out forms, etc.
And accessing the internet.
And accessing, no doubt about it.
And
We
John
also have a Wi-Fi hotspot where if the library is closed and you have access to a computer, then you can go there and sit near that library and you can access the internet.
And John Bell has traveled the state extensively in the last couple of years, and we could probably get the information off of the website that could refer you to a librarian in a specific parish anywhere in the state.
Right.
And I would assume that we as Livingston and Tangipahoa residents, we have the same feeling that of every other parish in this. We want to help our veterans. So
Right.
I think anyone in any library in the state, if not their state agencies, and we'll try to have some information on the website as to where you might go. Next question, gentlemen.
I think they're telling us it's time for a break.
Oh, time for a break already?
Already.
We
Too
just got
quick.
here.
We should make this a 2-hour program instead of an hour program. Well, we're gonna break for a minute and watch this video. We'll come back with some more questions in just a minute.